I'm Tim Queen, and today we're going to talk about social selling on LinkedIn. Social selling is a very common word if you're like in the LinkedIn space, and it's supposed to be like the new best thing of selling online on LinkedIn versus, for example, cold calling someone or doing door-to-door sale. Social selling is supposed to be like the next best thing. And while I agree with that, we have to make sure that we really understand what it means and what specific definitions of social selling make sense and which don't make sense. And surprisingly enough, the definition of like what LinkedIn understands as social selling doesn't necessarily make sense. So let's talk about what LinkedIn understands in terms of social selling. So this all started out by LinkedIn basically collaborating with a couple of customers. By customers, I mean corporations who had their dedicated sales departments. For this study, they would basically ask the company to supply sales data for individual sales reps, which would then be correlated to certain activities that people would do online. For example, I have employee number A, let's call him Adam. Adam would do log into LinkedIn, I don't know, let's say 3 times per day, and he would send some messages, and he would check out some profiles of potential customers, and he would share like some article. And then they would correlate those numbers, what were Adam's activities, with how much revenue Adam actually generated in real life. They took a couple of companies, several thousand sales reps, and this way they could correlate certain activities with certain outcomes. Now the problem with this is correlation, but not causation. You might see a pattern in this, but this doesn't mean like if you repeat those actions that they observe that you will make more sales. What are the 4 arbitrary categories that LinkedIn picked to determine how well you are doing in social selling? So LinkedIn determined there's 4 categories: building your personal brand, finding the right people, engaging with insights, and building relationships. If you go to linkedin.com/sales/SSI, you can see your personal SSA score, which means social selling index, based on those 4 categories. And LinkedIn will give you like a score between 0 and 100, and will also show you how well are you doing within your own network, first level connections, and within the industry that you picked as your profile language. This can really give the wrong impression of what kind of activities you should be focusing on to sell more. The first one, which is building your brand, basically you can game the score by just building up your profile, adding as many things to your profile as possible, writing a long description, profile picture, background image, having an extended experience section, having like text to every single experience section, adding media to every single profile section, getting endorsed, getting like recommendations, and you can get the score up, and LinkedIn will tell you you're doing really well in this section, but it doesn't necessarily mean the more is better. LinkedIn just defined it that way. It doesn't mean like that you should have as much content as possible. This will give you like a higher score to put as much stuff in as you can, but it doesn't mean that this will help the customer to understand what you're doing. So it might be much better to have like a compact version which is really getting quickly to the point and is helping the customer understand what you're offering, the value proposition, understand your story, what you're like having to bring to the table. So you might get a lower SSI score in this particular section, but it might help you to get more customers. So the second part that for some reason LinkedIn clustered into building your personal brand is creating posts. If you're frequently publishing posts, your score will go up. And if you're generating engagement, it will go up as well. So, but just by posting content doesn't mean, or just by getting engagement doesn't mean you're attracting the right crowd. You might create some content which is getting you a lot of engagement, but it will just attract like the wrong audience, which is not your the audience you want to sell to. Let's say, for example, you would pay something heartbreaking, emotional stories, jokes, whatever, like, and that would normally work really well on Instagram or Facebook, and you can get engagement on LinkedIn as well, but it's not really helping you to attract the right audience and to get them engaged. So you could game the system as well by just writing some viral content, which is just pushing the buttons of getting engagement, getting like likes, comments, shares, but it's like not doing the right thing. So you might again like get a high SSI score based on the building your personal brand category, but you're doing it the wrong way. You have to really know what you're doing. you have to really think about like what you put in your profile, not necessarily how much content, but it has to be a coherent story that is like telling people like what they have to know for them to make a quick decision to build trust quickly. And then what you're posting has to be also aligned with your audience, the target audience you're trying to reach, and attracting just this audience. And specifically, less engagement by the right people is better than more engagement. But the SSI score can't take this into consideration. So the second part, finding the right people. Can game the system by basically using all the different functionalities to find people. Using the search, using the advanced search parameters. Even though you might find the right people with like less search parameters, LinkedIn will reward you and give you like a higher SSI score if you search for more complex stuff like role, title. And certain things conveniently can only be scored by using LinkedIn Sales Navigator, because you can't search for certain things in the regular LinkedIn. So you actually have to upgrade to LinkedIn Sales Navigator to get a full score of 25 points in this category. So again, you want to really think about like who is your ideal audience, who are you trying to attract, and reaching out to them directly is just one way of getting in touch with them. You can also get a secondary route by posting content that's highly relevant to them, by posting this content in specific groups, by getting people to engage with your content the content is written for a specific audience in mind. This way they can reach out to you, but you wouldn't get the score high in terms of you actually have to search for people to get the score high. So this is again can be misleading if you don't understand what it means. Connecting to the right people, there's different ways how you can get in touch with them or how you can get in front of people. Don't necessarily focus on just searching. You can just as well, or even like do much better with posting high quality content, and then by structuring your content and by thinking about topics and themes that are only relevant for a certain audience, you can actually get much more eyeballs, indirectly connect with the right people. Just to mention a couple of more things, just looking at who visited your profile, related people you might know, by actually open up a lot of different profiles, you will get the score up. But just by randomly doing these activities doesn't help you. Like just looking at some random profiles will get your score, but it's not really helping you. You have to look at the right people, like where it makes sense to connect to. The third score is engaging with insights, which is totally ridiculous title, which just means you have to share articles with your network. Articles in a sense have insights about certain things in your industry. By just sharing content, LinkedIn articles, articles from external websites, you can get your score up. But again, you have to think about like what are you sharing? Like this is way more important, and you can share your own content as well. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be this way that you have to share content. This was just a correlation at that time that the people who were doing better in sales were also sharing a lot of articles. It doesn't mean like because you share articles you automatically make more sales, but you can again game the system by just sharing different articles, and the system will reward you and giving you like full set of scores. The last one, which is building relationships. This is one of the easiest aspects of the SSI score, which just means you have to use the chat and the direct messages. If you send out like a lot of messages and you chat with people, you really quickly get the score up to 25. Then you have it. You might have a score anywhere between like 60 to 100. That's what most people rank for, but it doesn't tell you anything about selling or how well you actually do in sales. This is just telling you that you are just trying to get some metrics out. You're just pressing some buttons to get the score high. You should really focus more on how to do actual sales. You have to really understand who is your audience, what topics is your audience interested in, how can you create content, how can you structure your content, how can you use your copywriting skills to create content that is really useful and entertaining to the audience you're trying to reach. How can you create content that is building trust and establish yourself as an authority in your field and makes it more likely that someone is checking out your profile. You want to make sure that your profile is optimized, that is giving a coherent story, optimized for the people you're trying to reach. It doesn't have to be long, it doesn't have to use all the different features of your profile. Sometimes less is more important than too much. You want to give them just enough, guide them, don't overwhelm them, don't give them 1 million options to click on, just show them one path and highlight the things that you want to see them first. and have a clear path how they can get in touch with you. And then when you're like approaching this from a content creation perspective, you're creating content, you might also actively search for people, but don't just use the advanced parameters just to get the score up. Use whatever makes sense to you, and that might just asking some people for some personal introductions. If they know someone who might be interested in something, that might be much more valuable than using those search functionalities by just arbitrarily searching for some role title or some company size. There is so many different ways how you can find people. You might find them outside of LinkedIn, and then just going to like the right forum, the right medium, the right conference, meeting people in real life, and then connecting with them on LinkedIn. LinkedIn doesn't understand this kind of complexity, so your score will not be as high as if you're using like those built-in tools. But again, do you want to get the score high but get no sales results, or do you care more about the outcome of what you're doing in terms of social selling? And then the last part, the relationship building part, just for the sake of talking to people and to get the score high, this doesn't mean anything. That might just mean that you're wasting your time chit-chatting all the time, like instead of doing real work and doing real sales, generating leads. What you should do is you should focus on getting people off of LinkedIn. The messaging system is a complete catastrophe, so you don't want to, like, if you're like looking for like a message later, it's going to be like really difficult to find. So make sure that you get people off the LinkedIn direct message system, get them on email or get them on chat, on Skype, WhatsApp, whatever is working for you. But this is a much better way. It's also like escalating, like you don't want to have like this direct message thing. You want to take the people who are seriously one level up, communicate directly with them via email, communicate with them via direct message, via phone chat. This can be connected to your CRM system, so you can always go back, have a complete message history, so you can find the information if you have to look something up. It's much easier than like using the LinkedIn system, which is only good like if you get like 10 messages per day. But anything else will completely break the entire system. So this is what you can do if you want to do social selling. Create content that is really useful, really valuable to the audience that you have carefully defined that you want to reach. Create the content for them, build the relationships, qualify the people who actually have a potential to become a customer or a lead, escalate them, talk to them, chat with them, take them to the next level, get their email address, get their phone number, get them on the phone, get them on chat, and take it from there. This will not give you the highest possible score in terms of SSI, but it will give you much better results. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more of those videos, please hit the like button and click the subscribe button and turn notifications on so you get email updates whenever I post my next LinkedIn marketing video.